We are continuing our coverage on the aftermath of the deadly shooting on Old Dominion University's campus. Now it is an investigation into the motives behind the gunman who, as again we've reported, is dead, was subdued and killed by the ROTC students inside the classroom in which that gunman opened fire. A lot of questions still remain in this case, but it's also interesting given this particular individual's criminal history and ties to terrorism, ties to ISIS. Joining us right now, we have Brian Dugan, who's the former special agent in charge of the Norfolk Field Office. Thank you so much for taking time and speaking with us, particularly given the circumstances that we're all seeing unfold at this point. Brian, I first want to ask you this. We heard from federal officials and then police that in a lot of ways yesterday, the investigation later in today was really just underway. There's a lot of questions still to get answered. How does an investigation like this begin? Where would you start in putting the pieces together and what led up to this?
Well, I mean, the honest part about the beginnings is we really want to make sure, and we've had this remit since 2001, is to make sure there's not another attack. So that's going to be the first step is, are there others out there, others planning, others that are weaponized? They're going to follow his steps. So that's going to be number one. Number two is to find out if there's anybody else out there facilitating or had facilitated this to make sure that there's nothing else out there that we're not aware of. So that's going to be the big ones up front. That's how it begins. Is we really have to dive into everything we know about Muhammad and what we know about his connections, his communications, and make sure that there's not going to be another one right around the corner.
And, we do know a bit about him at this point because he does have a prior documented criminal history, particularly, with ties to terrorism there. Looking at his history, his criminal record, that he had pled guilty in 2016 to attempting to work with ISIS there. How does that play in a role in how this probe is approached? Does it change how the typical approach would be?
Well, it's a big difference between someone that's supporting terrorism versus actually weaponizing themselves. That's a big jump. So that's going to be probably another question everybody's going to ask in the investigation is, how does he go from supporting but then taking the big step to put himself out there? Something kind of clicked him off to do this. Something motivated him to do this beyond what he did before. And so that's a big concern because usually the folks that are supporting want to kind of stay behind the scenes and maybe not want to get out there yet. They're not that brave yet, committed yet. And now we've got him doing this. So something's there to have to be investigated.
And, I think that leads into my next question for you. Again, Brian Dugan here joining us, former special agent in charge of the Norfolk Field Office here in Virginia and Hampton Roads. Timing of all of this. There obviously are going to be questions, as you just said, what might have triggered all of this. We have the war with Iran that's going on right now. We also, with timing into the investigation and how it's handled, I want to ask you, does it impact the investigation that students are likely not going to be on campus for the next week and a half? And then the other thing with timing with this, there are previous reports that he had suggested when he had pled guilty back in 2016 that he had suggested Ramadan as an ideal time for an attack. Obviously, we're in that right now. All of those timing things, I'm kind of hearing from you that would play a part in where the investigation, where you would maybe look, correct?
There's a lot of different angles. I mean, coincidence versus correlation. Is there a conspiracy? All these things need to be kind of sifted through to figure out if there is any kind of connection to what he did, why he did it, with other incidents that have happened in the last week or so versus Iran. And again, also a lot of times the radicalized folks, the lone wolves here in the United States, he had offered support for ISIS before, which is not friendly to Iran. But then he's got an angst against the Jewish population. So it kind of runs the gambit sometimes of these lone wolves that we have in the United States, that they're not solely in one lane. And so that kind of makes it harder to dig into the motivation and see if we can find the co-conspirators or others playing attack. So there's a lot to be sifted through. Certainly, we've got the old case that we can go back to find out if there's still connections there, if he was still maintaining contact, and if the motivations were still coming from overseas the same way. Um, but that's all going to be determined in the investigation coming up in the next couple days and weeks.
There are a lot of people who are probably wondering after his release, right? He served around 7 or 8 years of his 11-year sentence, prison sentence. What does it look like from your standpoint, within the FBI and maybe keeping track or monitoring? Is that something you think in this particular situation would have likely been done, or how does that fall into all of this as well? Do we typically keep track of these individuals once they get out after they pled guilty to something like he did?
Well, we certainly do, but I mean, there are a lot of subjects that get released out of jail on probation and on parole, and there's so many that nobody in law enforcement can watch all these guys. So certainly, he's a subject of interest based off his previous case, and that's something that law enforcement is going to keep an eye on. But they're not going to be 24-hour monitoring of him, and they're certainly not going to be up on all of his communications throughout his time, his life after being in custody. So there's a limit to how far law enforcement can do to kind of stay on top of someone like this. But it certainly doesn't bode well that he was able to radicalize again and then take the further step of being kinetic and taking action in his own hands.
And is that something that, in your experience, again, thank you for taking time and talking with us today. Is that something in your experience that we see happen where you have someone who spent, significant time in prison for a connection to, a terrorist or et cetera, and on the back end after they get out that they re-radicalize? Is that something in your experience that surprises you? Is it something that you're not surprised by? Do we see that often in your space?
Well, let's just say in general, recidivism is usually low amongst all people that come out of the prison system, but it's not perfect. It's not 100%. And honestly, I don't know of any that I can think of that were counterterrorism subjects that did time in the United States prison system and were released and then went back to terrorism. But I can't say it can't happen. And just like our recidivism rate is low, but not 100%, we're going to have people like this that still maintain the mentality and the motivation.
That's really good context. I appreciate you giving that. Now I want to ask about your connection to this community into Norfolk. I mean, for years, you led the charge here. You would have been in the forefront, speaking most likely with press, with the community, coordinating efforts there with this. For you to see that this has happened and knowing your connection here to this Norfolk community, what were your kind of initial thoughts, and can you put us into the maybe how some of the federal agents, how they are possibly feeling and doing right now, having to deal with something like this here in Norfolk?
Well, I mean, obviously, during my time, we responded to a couple active shooter incidents, and it saddens me we have to go through this again. Certainly at the campus of ODU, which is a great school. It was a great partner with us. And a lot of the collaboration that we did for my time there, I know continues, where we're preparing for these types of things, working out on how we're going to respond to these types of things. And I know the team is working throughout the night, throughout the day, helping out ODU, helping out the police department there and Norfolk Police Department, and working with all the other law enforcement agencies to try to get to answers that we talked about earlier that we need to find out fast.
And I think that is a great segue to this. How fast, Brian? In this scenario where the gunman is already dead, how does time play a factor into this, and when you get this information?
Well, certainly when it's a terrorism incident and the subject's dead, that does not mean the case is done. We need to find out others that are involved, others that may be planning. Like I mentioned before, really what we need to do is make sure this doesn't happen again. And so I guarantee headquarters, counterterrorism division, all the other folks at DHS are now digging through everything and sifting through everything to find out who else is out there, what else is out there, and let's make sure that we stamp out any others that may be thinking that let's do this again, or a copycat or anything like that.
And then I would just ask you if there's anything else that I have not asked that you would really like for our viewers to maybe hear, you think could really provide some context for anybody who is trying to make sense of all of this from the investigation standpoint.
Well, the first thing is that my heart goes out to everybody that's dealing with this, and to my old team that I know is going to be jumping on this. But like SAC Evans said, if there's anybody who knows anything about what was going on with this gentleman or anybody that's associated with him, please reach out to the FBI, reach out to law enforcement. It's crucial that as a community we get together, one, to get over the trauma, but two, to make sure there's nothing else out there we're missing.
Former special agent in charge in Norfolk for the Norfolk Field Office of the FBI, Brian Dugan. Thank you so much for taking time and offering some context for our viewers here. And we appreciate you, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon at another time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Absolutely.